Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on my channel where today I am going to do the Bookish Bookin book tag, which is such a mouthful to say, and I wasn't actually tagged to do this, but I saw someone else do it and thought it sounded really fun, so I'm gonna do it anyway. Let's go. Question 1 is a well-loved book that you hated, and for this one there are a few I could say, but I'm gonna go with All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven. And I know this is a little bit of an unpopular opinion because this is a very widely loved book, but I just didn't enjoy it. I found the plot to be kind of predictable and I wasn't really attached to any of the characters in a real or genuine way, and the ending just really annoyed me, so yeah, did not enjoy this book. Question number 2 is what is a guilty pleasure read, and I don't really have a good answer for this one because I don't like describing books as a guilty pleasure because I'm in a different mood for a different book all the time, but I am going to say that I read a lot of children's books when I'm in the mood for them, and again, it's not a guilty pleasure, it's just something that I really enjoy reading every now and then. Question number 3 is have you ever spoiled a book for someone, and if so, what book? And I need to put a disclaimer before I tell this story and say that I was 10 years old when this happened, so please do not judge me too harshly for this because I spoiled Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix for someone. Story time. So I was reading this at the same time as a friend at school, and one day I asked her where she was up to and she said she had just started the chapter called Dumbledore's Army, and I was like, oh my god, that's a spoiler. I'm not up to there yet. Dumbledore has an army. I didn't know that. How dare you? Like really offended. So that night I went home, I kept reading, and I passed where she was up to, and the next day at school I may or may not have told her who dies in this book, which was kind of a dick move, but I have no regrets about it because she spoiled something for me too. Number 4, what is a book that made you ugly cry? And I recently did a video all about books that made me cry for different reasons, and I will leave the link to that wherever it goes, but one I didn't mention in that video that was incredibly gut-wrenching is More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera, which is a really lovely story about sexuality and being true to yourself and friendship and all these things, and it's just an incredibly beautiful story that made me shed quite a few really just gross tears. Number 5, what is your latest did not finish book? And I try to make a rule never to DNF a book just because I think if I don't reach the end of it, I have no real right to comment on it because there'll always be someone who says it got better after where I stopped. The latest one that I've put down for now is The Girl at Midnight by Melissa Gray, which I impulse bought a long time ago and just don't really have an interest in reading. I got about 2 chapters into it and just wasn't feeling it, so I'm sure I will pick this up at some point again, but I'm really not sure when it's gonna be. Question number 6, what is a book that you read due to controversy? And I can't really think of any super controversial books that I've read or really been that interested in, but for this one I'm gonna say The Sky is Everywhere by Jandy Nelson, which wasn't controversial, but I remember reading reviews about it before I had read it, and it seemed that people either absolutely loved it or absolutely hated it. There was no real middle ground there, and I ended up disliking this as well, so it's not controversial, but it's the best answer I have. Question number 7 is a book where you questioned the author's sanity, and for this one I'm gonna say John Dies at the End by David Wong, because even though I love this book, there are just a few moments that are so bizarre or crazy or completely far-fetched and ridiculous where I was like, what is going on in this author's head when he's writing this and being like, yeah, that's cool, and it's like a villain made out of hot dogs or something stupid. It's just like, what? Number 8 is what is the most cringe-worthy book you've ever read, and I haven't read this one for a while, and although I enjoyed it when I read it as a teenager, I think that if I reread it now, I would find it incredibly cringeworthy, and it's the Twilight series by Stephanie Meyer. Number 9 is what is a book that you read solely due to the cover, and for this one I'm going to say 1,000 Pieces of You by Claudia Gray, which I initially bought because it has a gorgeous cover, and I read it because the blurb was kind of intriguing, but I didn't end up loving this book or the sequel, so probably wouldn't recommend this series to people. Question number 10 is a book that you are embarrassed you've read, and this isn't a book, but it is still so embarrassing. Oh my god. So back in high school, I went through a bit of a phase with a friend or two, and we would read a lot of Harry Potter fan fiction, and not just fan fiction, we were reading the Draco and Hermione fan fiction because for whatever reason, I was so in love with the idea of them I don't even know why, because now I'm all about Ron and Hermione. It was just like, why? Now when I think about it, I'm like, why did I spend so much time reading fan fiction? And I would even like send good ones to each other and be like, oh my god, this one's so sweet. And it was just like, why? Why was I doing that? I'm getting embarrassed just thinking about it. Question 11 is an unknown book that you wish more people had heard of, and for this one I'm going to say Yellow by Megan Jacobson, which I read earlier this year and really enjoyed. This is the debut novel by an Australian author and it's just great. The story follows a 14-year-old named Kira who's being bullied at school, and her life at home is kind of falling apart as well. And then one day at an abandoned phone booth, a ghost talks to her and says he will kind of fix her life up a bit if she can solve his murder from 20 years ago. I loved it, I loved the writing, and I would definitely recommend this book to people. Number 12 is favorite villain, and there are honestly so many I could say for this because I love the villains in stories when they're really complex and dark. I just find it really fun to read about. But I'm gonna go with the Darkling from the Grisha trilogy, which I read this month and I really enjoyed. I love that he's a dark villain but also has this really complex backstory that explains why he is the way he is, and he was just really compelling and enjoyable to read about. So yeah, that is probably my favorite villain at the moment. Question 13 is a book that you enjoyed which is outside the genre which you would normally read, and for this I'm going to say the Mara Dyer trilogy by Michelle Hodkin. This one had a lot more to do with the paranormal side of things and was kind of dark and twisted. I did end up enjoying this series more than I thought I would, but still not heaps. Question number 14 asks for a book trope that you actually enjoy reading. The only trope I have a genuine hatred for is insta-love. So many other tropes can be really well done. The Chosen One trope has been well done a lot of times. Love triangles have been, the complicated friendship, all these sorts of things can be really well done, and I think when they are well done by a good author, they are incredibly entertaining and enjoyable to read about. Final question for this tag is what inspired you to join BookTube? And honestly, I used to spend so much time watching other people's videos that just had people talking so passionately about books, really motivated me to do something similar, so that's why I'm here. That's it for this tag, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you haven't done this tag and you're interested in doing it, then consider yourself tagged by me because I think this is a really fun tag with some great questions. But that's it for this video today. I upload videos every Wednesday and Saturday, so be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel and tune in on those days for more bookish goodness. Toodaloo!